Hey now, shipper dudes. Wally Phipps here. I'd like to give you a quick overview of the Dude's logistics software. I'm already logged into the Dude dashboard that you see in front of you. Dude is multi-company, multi-branch, and designed to run on your local network. The primary focus of our logistics software is load build and load management. The way the system works is that you preset almost all of your data. That results in an easy, simple, fast, pick and click workflow environment. When you set up the Dude, you will define yourself as either a shipper, a carrier, or a broker, and that sets certain switches in the software and determines how it works for you. Let's start by giving you a little tour of the overall Dude dashboard. At the very top is a back office type menu. Located back here is things where we would set up the lanes and rates, the stop tables, security. There's a lot of accounting ledgers that are for use by management in the back office, all located through the back office menu. Keeps it out of the way for the majority of the users, which actually where they work is the next panel down, the first red panel. We call it the mode panel. The mode panel consists of 8 buttons, which primarily work like the radio buttons in your car. When you mash a button, it allows you to switch modes. We can hop from any mode to any mode. The first 3 buttons are oriented towards data management. For example, when I clicked the Go Carrier button, that brought up this carrier ledger. I can click on any carrier and that calls up the carrier manager for that specific carrier. We're going to come back and take a closer look at these on the overview to keep going. The next one is Go Stops. Go Stops is actually accessing an electronic Rolodex. It's very simple in nature. It is where we store a lot of different kind of information that's integrated into all the different modules. For primarily, we store all our drops or our destinations in here. We also store things like contacts that are integrated with shippers, and each part of the Rolodex is to be used by another module so that you can just pick and click the data and never have to do any data entry during the process. The third data button is Go Shippers. Of course, that simply is where we set up the different shippers. It accesses the shipper manager. So let's move on to the next couple of buttons. We'll click on Go Orders. That accesses the shipping order manager. You see that it always works the same. When we click on the button, it opens up a ledger. From the ledger, we can enter into the data manager applicable for that ledger. After the Go Orders comes Go Load Generation. This is where all the destinations are summarized, and we'll come back and take a closer look at this, but this is actually where we take our load orders that are put on a timeline and generate actual loads from all the shipping orders. The next button is Go Loads. That opens up the Load Ledger. The Load Ledger of course, goes into the load manager. The reason that's yellow is because there is an alert flag set for that load. We'll come back and take a long look at the load ledger, a lot of things that we can do with it. So we had two buttons that are for the loads, go loads and then go dispatch. The go dispatch is the dispatch system. Once the load, of course, has been put into the system, and it's primarily where you're going to follow the load cycle of the follow and update and document the load cycle. Let's take a look at the last button. Let's go revenues. Go revenues is simply what it says. It's going to actually work on a load by load basis, and it's going to show you what you're making or losing on that load. Every load is summarized for a profit-loss relationship, and we'll come back and take a closer look at that also. One final note while we're here on the revenue panel: if you are in a shipper mode, then you'll probably be building standard cost and calculate your gross profit against your standard cost that's used in shipping. So that concludes the mode panel. The next panel down that we'll take a look at is the data selection panel. Let's take a closer look at the data selection panel. Basically, the selections that we make in the data selection panel determines what records are going to show in the ledger below it. Most panels are consistent throughout the different modules. The first is zone. Zone is how you will slice your pie operationally. For example, you can set up zones by sales territories, geographical regions, freight zones, work groups, teams. It's simply a way where you can divide up the workflow. And of course, different users in their setup can be assigned to different zones. The status is actually like we're in the go loads, and the status here is actually the status of the particular loads that are involved. For example, if I wanted to see all loads that are in billing, I would just change it from all active loads to billing loads. There is a selected date button here, and it just toggles in and allows you to view your loads between your zone date range as opposed to your zone status. The final part of the data selection panel is there is a consistent operational toolbar in each one. It includes a call to a search program or a data manager or the exit button, which will simply take you out of the application. Let's take a closer look at the ledgers part and give you an idea of how they work. The default sort on the ledger is by driver. This keeps all our open loads up at the top and keeps us focused on what the open loads that we need to cover. Actually, a ledger is just a snapshot of all the different loads. It's very useful though, because we can use this snapshot of the information to do a lot of different things. We can call up individual loads simply by clicking on single clicking on the row button, or to make it simpler, we can just simply double click anywhere on the row and call it up. The beauty of the ledger is is in the ability to sort the columns. Any column can be sorted simply by single clicking it on the top. Here we click the destination column, and because of the way that the loads are put in, state first then city, I can easily go to any state that I need to see whether or not I have loads going to that state. It's very important when the phone rings, an owner-operator is telling you maybe he wants to go to Texas. Well, I can double-click on that column, and then, of course, all my loads here to Texas appear in front of me. Likewise, I can single-click or on the origin and get a sort by state, double-click, reverse the sort, and of course, I can roll anywhere within it, and simply with a double-click, call up the detail information. The Dude basically has three types of programs in it: data ledgers, data managers, and then the search programs, which we'll be taking a closer look at. But once you get comfortable in these three programs, then you're good to go. Most people, after a couple of days on the system, are flying. I'd like to make one final note on data ledgers. The ledgers are read-only in the rows. If you want to actually edit or modify the data, then you need to call up the manager. This is really the best way to do it. You start letting people try to update rows, it gets very confusing. Okay, let's jump over to carriers and take a look at a typical Dude search program. Click on search, search window is opened up. As you can, well, let me reset it from where it had previously been searched. As you can see, there's 15,262 records in the carrier master. You can either key data. Sometimes you don't want to leave your mouse and have to go to the keyboard, so you can just click on a button. But most of the time you're just going to jump up there and key. For example, I typed in Pope, okay, and it instantly cut the 15,000 records down to 4 records. The carrier that I was looking for is Greg Pope with GK Pope Trucking. So all I have to do is simply click on that, and it'll take me to his master file, which I'll do. One other thing I want to show you on the search programs is, like, if I come back up here and I type X, you see that it runs the search and then it takes the X back off. So it's really a great time saver, because if you string out too far, then the system's going to recognize there's no records and cut back to where you were. When you key in load numbers and stuff, if you get one digit wrong, you don't have to start over, back up, rekey. The system's going to do it for you. So we'll click on Greg Pope, and that'll bring us straight up into the carrier manager for Greg. Okay, dudes, we're out of time for this video. I got so much more I want to show you, is how easy it is to actually generate the orders, how the orders are summarized for the shipper timeline, how easy it is to enter a load, and how the dispatch system works. But we're out of time, and we're just going to have to do it on the next video. Thank you for watching. Visit our website at shipperdude.com. Later.